Hey guys, it's Tehi. We're going to go over the last two Mythic bosses for PTR testing that's coming up this week. Both of these bosses will be tested Friday, the 11th, I believe it is. Yep. Not a whole lot of changes for Fractilis right off the bat. There's really only two. The first one is whenever you break a wall, it's going to do a massive dot onto your entire raid. And I do mean absolutely massive. So just one of these dots is a million damage tick every 1 second for 8 seconds. Now, since, three, four players at the most, I would say, are going to get targeted to break walls at a time, I assume this dot's going to stack. So you're looking at a 3 million tick every 1 second for 8 seconds. By the time you get to this boss on Mythic, I imagine our HP is going to be, 14, 15 million maybe. So it's going to be a fifth of your health tick, assuming it's 3 stacks of the dot every second for 8 seconds. That's a lot for the healers to heal, on top of a lot of raid damage that was going out, especially on targeted players to other things that was happening in Heroic. So, one thing I forgot to mention in the Heroic video is how you know you get targeted for a wall. There's going to be a bunch of like these small white arrows at the base of the boss, and it just points to you, and that's how you know like you get targeted. There's also like an orb that goes over your head. The arrow indicator is kind of whatever to me. Like, I personally just think you have a weak aura. You turn on a certain sound when you get the actual debuff, and that's it. The arrow is kind of irrelevant for 90+% of the player base. The only other mythic change is actually for tanks, but it affects the entire raid. So anytime the tank hit goes out, you no longer spawn one wall. You will spawn 3 walls per tank hit. Now, anyone that knows this fight on Heroic knows that 3 walls means you are halfway to the enrage. So, I thought a little bit about, specifically paladins immuning the tank hit and it wasn't spawning a wall. I don't think that's intended. I don't think that's going to be allowed when you go to live, and if it is, then this is going to get abused tremendously, because this tank hit is physical damage, which means you can use BOP to prevent it from happening. So you could see a real paladin stack type of situation, and everyone just runs the forbearance talent, where forbearance is like a 15-20 second CD. This tank hit happens once every 30 to 40 seconds roughly. So essentially you could just be rotating bops for a good portion of these tank walls and kind of eliminate that from the fight. I don't think that's how it's going to go live. I don't think that's what Blizzard wants this fight to turn out to be, but just a heads up. So those are the only two changes to Fractilis on Mythic. Let's go to Nexus-King Salhadaar. That has basically one change to every single phase except for the last phase, which we'll get there in a second. So when you soak this tank hit, there's going to be an image, a copy of yourself that spits out of you. And what you have to do is you have to face the copy of yourself, or the stack of Oathbound that you just got taken off of you is going to go back into you. So you soaked this, you got this debuff taken away, and if you fail to face your image, then he is going to give you the stack that you just got rid of right back. So, for example, here's 2 smiley faces. This smiley face isn't going to go and turn and face the image smiley face of himself. So he soaked this, lost it, doesn't face his other soul, whatever it is, fragment, and it's going to give it right back. So instead of being at 2 stacks, now you're at 3. And I assume there's only going to be, this is going to be hey, you cannot screw this up. There is not going to be an extra soak that you can get into without potentially endangering your life this entire fight. So this is going to be one of those mechanics where you absolutely can't screw up, and if you do screw it up, then you're going to get MC'd when Phase 1 ends, and that's it. So going to Phase 2, not a lot of changes. The only change is that these beams, I did hear on Max's stream, he talked about how 10 of these portals are going to go out. I don't see that anywhere in the Dungeon Journal, but maybe he just has insider information on that. I'm not sure. But let's assume he's right. I didn't put 10 portals down here because you get the picture. The mythic change is going to be that if I get hit by this beam, and let's say that my friend over here also gets hit by the beam, the damage that we both took from this beam is not just going to hit us, but also going to hit our friend. So any damage that we take from another person, from like basically the way the tank mechanic works for these beams is if a friend of yours gets hit by this beam, you will take the damage that they took 1-to-1 ratio. So if it does a 4 million hit, you will also take an extra 4 million damage. So let's say for this guy's perspective, he gets hit by this beam, it's a 4 million tick. His friend also gets hit by the beam, it's a 4 million tick. They will both actually take 8 million damage because it will reciprocate the damage done to those people as well. So essentially, if you have 5 people that get hit by the beam, it's going to be a 4 million tick plus an extra 16 to 20 million damage immediately after, and they're just going to die immediately. So dodging these beams, and they still rotate, I assume, so it's going to be super important to dodge those. I know I did not explain that the best. Essentially, just don't get hit by a beam. You won't die. It's kind of that simple. The intermission when you get the ads. So this is just, both sides are going to be the same, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same amount of ads that we saw in Heroic. So 1 Titan, 1 of the Princes, and 4 of these Reaper ads. And essentially what's going to happen is these Reaper ads are going to target 1 player each, and they are going to charge to go hit these players. The biggest thing is that the Princes now have a massive shield. It's 50% of their total health as a shield. So they will have basically 150% health. But by running the charge through the Prince, it will do a large amount of damage to the shield. And since there are 4 ads, my math tells me that every charge that hits him will do 12.5% of his health. Now, it does say it only does damage to the shield. So if you start hitting the shield, and let's say, you take off 10% of the shield, you don't also get to take some of his health away by hitting him with this charge with the 4th ad or whatever it might be. It's only taking away from his shield, which even further prioritizes making sure that this Titan dies first. And that's really about it. So once you break the shield, I'm pretty sure everything just has to die together, and that's kind of that. So you get targeted, point these through. Obviously, you don't want to do a situation where you both are 2 of you are standing on the same spot. I assume you're going to take a double hit from that. I think it's 10 million damage for this charge to the player and any player that's in the path. So if I'm this range DPS here and I get in the pathway, I'm taking extra damage as well. Really not that difficult, but it'll be interesting to see when all of these are fairly stacked up what it's going to look like. And that's kind of it for the intermission. You just do the same thing as Heroic from there. Phase 3 is where things get wild. So you're going to spawn these stars. I'm not 100% certain on this. I thought about it for about 2 minutes, and this is where I ultimately decided would be best to get as far as you can. I think you want to stagger the stars in this kind of a pattern. And I think the reason why you want to do that is you want to make it so that they are on, let's call it different layers of the arena. So as this one's going this way, this one's going that way, and which is what these arrows are supposed to represent. So when we go to use these lines to break them, there's not going to be another star that's, immediately but potentially behind it too. You just want it to be so that you have space so that when you take this blue line to hit the star, there's going to be space here. Now, obviously, I made this up. There is no telling what direction these stars are going to go, at least none that I'm aware of. So you could very well get 2 stars that are both going in this direction, and now my idea is kind of shot. But this feels like a 50-50 shot for me, and even if it doesn't work that way, then, I would assume 4 stars are going to spawn per set, and maybe 5, and you just have to figure it out how you're going to deal with them there. The blue line still exists. When you hit the star with the blue line, it was originally going this way, but now it will cease to go that way, and it'll start going the other way around, is how the Dungeon Journal reads it as it's going to work. So hit it with the blue line, and you will change the direction. Now, the problem with the way these stars work on Mythic is if 2 of these stars collide into each other, so let's say You know, I had 2 stars on the same layer, which is another reason why I think like they have to be on separate layers, is because of what I'm about to talk about now. And I changed the direction of this one, and this one was already going this way. Now they're just going to meet in the middle and collide, and it's an instant raid wipe. So definitely going to be a weak aura when we all get to this in Mythic that tells us to go hit this star or that star. But also, I mean, I'm not even sure about that, actually thinking about it, because how is the weak aura going to know which one you actually want to go hit unless we figure out like the direction of how these are going to work. There's going to be a lot, like this phase 3 is wild. There's going to be a lot of figuring out how this phase works when, you know, Liquid and Echo and Methods of the world get to this boss and try to figure out how to do this phase as best as you can. The last thing about this is these blue lines. I believe it's called Star Killer Nova. The biggest thing to take into account when it comes to that is if you hit a star with multiple of these lines, it will essentially explode the star, and it's like 24 million damage. It's unsurvivable damage. No way we have a health pool high enough for that. So it's going to be a raid wipe. I'm pretty sure it's only going to take 2. So the way I'm understanding this is, let's say you hit this with 1, and now you're rotating the other way. I would assume that this star is going to like change colors to indicate that like, hey, I've already been hit once by that blue line. If you hit me again, I'm going to explode. But if you do hit it again with another blue line, it's just going to implode, and the entire raid is going to wipe. So, that's it for Salhadaar. It's going to be a lot to figure out, especially in only an hour of Mythic testing. Hopefully the boss works well from the beginning so people can try to get as far as they possibly can. In my opinion, Phase 1 and 2 in the intermission seem very, very doable. Depending on what the tuning is going to be like on PTR testing. But this third phase is going to be absolutely nuts. So try to pick up as much information as you can when you watch this last phase. Fractilis really doesn't seem like it's going to be too crazy either. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Dimensius, I will be making a Dimensius video. It will probably be longer because there's about 40 million abilities on that boss fight. Specifically talking about Heroic. I'm not going to touch Mythic. Or maybe I will. I don't know. I can't decide. But anyways, there will be a Dimensius, at least Heroic video that'll come out eventually. Good luck in PTR testing this week. Hopefully it goes well. Let's pray for no bugs. And I will see you guys later. Have a good one. Thank you for watching.